I want to thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you. And I also want to thank all the people who are joining, taking your time to listen to this. So when I talk about meditation, if it's okay, I like to start with sort of an analogy that puts the whole thing into context, because the word meditation can be so confusing. I do mindfulness, I do vipassana, I do Zen, I do transcendental meditation, I use headspace. There's never been a greater need for meditation. There's never been greater opportunities to do some sort of meditation. And there's also never been greater confusion about what meditation actually is. And so the analogy I use is you're on a little boat and you're in the middle of the ocean. And all of a sudden you get these giant 30, 40, 50 foot high waves, big waves. And you could think, oh my gosh, I'm on this little boat. The ocean is in upheaval. The whole ocean is not in upheaval. Maybe the 50-foot waves are, but if you do a cross section out there, you realize that the surface of the ocean may be turbulent, but the ocean is miles deep. And the depth of the ocean by its nature is pretty darn quiet. So by its nature, turbulent on the surface, by its nature, pretty darn quiet at its depth. Wonderful analogy for the mind.
Love it.
Surface of the mind is the active thinking mind, thought. Some people call it the monkey mind. Millions of things. I got to do this, and I call it the gotta mind. I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to call him, and I got to call her, and I got to make a list, and I got to find a list, and I got to make a new list, and I got to slow down, but I got to get going, and I got to get to sleep, and I got to get up. Ever have that experience?
Never. That never happens to me.
So it's a natural human desire to say, oh, I'd like to have some inner calm, some inner clarity, some inner equanimity, some inner power, some inner creativity, and the operative word there is inner. And the question is there such a thing as an inner? And if so, how do I get there? And now to answer your question, enter the realm of meditation. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, legitimate forms of meditation have been associated with a calm mind, a clear mind, a blissful mind, a creative mind, an insightful mind, a truthful mind. And so the question is, are all meditations the same? Because there's lots of them. So to answer this question, we now know from brain research that there's 3 basic types of meditation. They used to think that they were all the same, but now, and the reason why they use brain research, LJ, is because every discrete experience, I'm going to do a little science here, is that okay?
I love it.
Every discrete experience we have, it impacts the brain in a discrete way. If you listen to classical music, it has one type of brainwave. If you listen to electronic music, it has a different brainwave. If you watch a romantic comedy, it has one type of brainwave. If you watch a horror movie, it has another. So different experiences have different impact on the brain. So they said, okay, let's get all these different people, do all these different types of meditation. Let's see what we got. Turns out 3 basic types. And using the analogy that I just used, I will explain them. The first is called focused attention. Focused attention is a concentration form of meditation. It is by definition very difficult to do. And the principle of focused attention is, if you want to have a calm mind, what disrupts a calm mind? Thoughts. So let's get rid of thoughts and then we'll have a calm mind. It's like saying, if you want to have a calm ocean, what disrupts a calm ocean? Waves. So stop the waves, you have a calm ocean. So focused attention, and that includes some type of vipassana meditation, Zen meditation, anything where you concentrate on a thought or a mood or a feeling or some part in your body, you try to push out thoughts, clear your mind of thoughts, focused attention. And that creates in the brain something called gamma brain waves, which are 20 to 50 cycles per second. And that's when your brain is working really hard, concentrating. Second approach, mindfulness, the title of your show, and the work you do, the title of the work you do. Mindfulness, and it's called open monitoring. Open monitoring has a different approach. Open monitoring says, thoughts are not necessarily the disruptor of calm, but the content of thoughts can be the disruptor of calm. So if I have a thought about a guy named Joe, and I don't know anybody named Joe, but if I have a thought about a guy named Joe, and 10 years ago, Joe done me wrong. So open monitoring is an approach to meditation that teaches me to observe my thoughts dispassionately. Don't be 5, 10 years ago. Don't live in the past. Be in the present. That didn't happen now. That happened then. So it teaches me to be fully mindful and present now. And so there's mindful walking and mindful talking and mindful eating and mindful trying to get to sleep and so many mindful techniques to be in the present. And when we do that second type of meditation, it creates something called theta brainwaves. And theta brainwaves are 4 to 8 cycles per second. Is this too much? Okay on the science? Okay. 4 to 8 cycles per second. And theta brainwaves are pre-onset dream, but they're also thinking quietly about following your thoughts, being lost in thoughts, different than daydreaming. Daydreaming is just sort of fritter on the surface. It's like in the old days when you go into a library and you'd see someone over in the corner deep in thought. There's like there's a silence about them. You don't want to disturb that person because they're following the meaning of their thoughts. So that's called open monitoring, theta brainwaves. Now, these two approaches to meditation are called, when you look it up, cognitive approaches to meditation. Cognitive means pertaining to your thoughts, your moods, your feelings, your behavior. Pertaining to the waves, adjusting your thought, your attitude towards thoughts, neutral attitude towards thoughts, suppressing thoughts, clearing the mind. So it's waves. The third type is called self-transcending. And transcendental meditation is a technique that's included in that. And self-transcending recognizes that there's actually a vertical dimension to the mind. We love deeply. We hurt deeply. We know things deeply. We have intuition. Somebody says to you, they're pitching an idea to you, some business idea or something like that, and it's making perfectly good sense up here. But on a deep level, deep, quiet level, you go, you've had that. It doesn't feel right. So in self-transcending, we hypothesize that even deeper than that, way down in there's a level right now where your mind is already completely settled and peaceful and wide awake. And it's said to be the source of our creativity, our intelligence, our happiness there. But I like to just call it my own quiet self. It's there. We've lost access. We're stuck up here. And self-transcending techniques, transcendental meditation, is a simple, natural, effortless technique that allows the active thinking mind to just settle down and settle down and settle down and experience. There's so many sirens outside in Manhattan. I don't know if you can hear them, but it's like
A little bit.
Yeah, the national bird. They have something going on out there. But it allows your active thinking mind to just experience these deep, inner, silent, unbounded levels of your own nature. And when we do that, and it's effortless, your brainwave signature changes to something called alpha 1. And alpha 1 is 8 to 10 cycles per second. And that's a state of restful, settled alertness. But it's not focused on anything, on a thought, it's just awake. And then when that happens, your body gains a profound state of rest and relaxation, and we can talk about that later, but it gets rid of stress. And the last point I'll make is, this is not a question of one technique is better than the other. You can't say that vitamin C is better than vitamin A. They have different outcomes for different purposes, and they work wonderfully together. It's not a question of I do mindfulness so I don't need to do that, or I do that so I don't. No, we want to, in our toolbox, we want to have tools that work. Long answer, but that's the context of everything.
That's so great. I love it. So I heard gamma rays, theta, alpha 1.
Yeah, alpha 1.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And I love that how you phrased it, which is just that deep sense of rest but alertness, and not with any one particular thought or focus attached to it. It sounds it sounds fantastic. I myself have never tried TM. And I am fiercely curious about meditation in general. In my toolbox, I have 3 styles of meditation, and maybe they're my vitamin A and C and D and or whatever. I never really thought about it exactly that way before, but it definitely taps into the fact that each of these styles serves a different part of me. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I love how you explain that. It's really wonderful. Um, what isn't meditation?
Meditation is anything that takes you away from yourself,
Okay.
anything that takes you away from that deep inner big self, your own true self. That line, know thyself, be true to yourself, to thine own self be true. And in that analogy, the way ocean, that deepest level of the ocean, that deepest level of myself is my true self. So anything that takes me away from accessing and connecting that, and that can be, there's a word, there's 3 words. It's like tamasic. I don't know if you ever heard of sattvic, tamasic. So this is
Sure.
Sanskrit. So, well, even better, dharma. You talked
Yes.
about your book, Dharma. So
Yes.
dharma means activity that is in alignment with your inner true self.
Right.
So that means a job. If you have a job that's your dharma, it makes you feel, if you could work hard, but at the end of the day, you're tired, but you're happy. A relationship can be dharmic. It's tough, but it's the right one. Food can be dharmic. I eat that food. Other people don't like it. I feel good. Adharmic, away from dharma. I eat food, it makes me sick. I'm in a job that makes me feel awful. So dharmic would bring, if you say the word of meditation is to be in alignment, something to bring you in alignment. And when you sit and close your eyes during self-transcending or anything like that, that's a mental way of alignment. But then there's physical alignment. That can be yoga, it can be dance, service. I'm a big believer of service as a way of an alignment. So anything that is in alignment with your dharma is meditation. Anything that is adharmic is not meditation.
Yeah, thank you. That's a big one. So that taps into, when you're talking about that, that taps into like the word integrity for me, matching my insides with my actions, aligning my thoughts with my actions, aligning my feelings with my thoughts with my actions. It can get really deep. And
But that's the only thing that's worth happening. If it's not
yeah,
deep, who cares?
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
it's like who wants to just the big David Lynch wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish, and he says that the big ideas, the truth, the big fish swim at the depth of the ocean. The little insignificant just swim on the surface, but those ideas that are going to change your life, change film, change dance, change anything, those are those big, deep, inspirational ideas. And we need to live in those levels. We need to live in those levels.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like a lot of people that I talk to over the years about meditation or mindfulness, I can see that they're very reserved about broaching the subject, that maybe it's feeling a little scary, because they're going to find something out about themselves that they don't want to find out about. There's a lot of, I apologize, for my practice personally, it's been about, being open to whatever is going to come up, and who knows what, and just be okay with the unknown. And that's really, really scary for everyone, I think.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
So at the end of it, for me, I think talking about like what the struggle is often a great place to start, because that's our commonplace, right? Like everybody, I say this in my work all the time as a coach and a consultant, everyone struggles and everyone wants to be successful in their own way, however they define success. Those 2 things we all have in common, no matter what. So starting with the struggle, if you could tap into that for me a little bit, and unpack that, Bob. Like, how do we get okay with that so that we can be brave enough to go deeper, so that we can be open?
Well, the interesting thing is, again, there are many mindfulness techniques where you're dealing with your feelings, your emotions. It's a cognitive process and things come up. The self-transcending, I like to look at it's almost more physiological. You know, when you get a good night's sleep or you've slept really well for a few days in a row and you're exercising and you're feeling on top of your game and then something comes up, you handle it. It doesn't push your old buttons. It doesn't make you go down a rabbit hole. You can deal with it. But if you're exhausted, if you're worn thin, if you're, you know, not much bandwidth, you could use a little TLC and then you get a snarky email and that brings up all the old garbage and then yada, yada, yada. So the thing is, in self-transcending, the point that one thing I want to make is it's such an effortless, gentle, we teach veterans with PTSD, we teach 10-year-old children. It's such an innocent, natural process that gives your body this deep, it allows your mind to settle down to these very peaceful, inherently peaceful, not the scary thoughts are more up here. Down here, it's pretty darn nice, sweet. But the key thing is, and you know this with dance, when your mind meditates, your body's meditating. When your mind and body are not separate, when you have an experience that comes into your mind, something happy or something, say, traumatic, there's no wall that stops. It just goes right into the brain. It goes right into the body. It registers. It's just a flow. So when you're sitting and in self-transcending with TM and settling down gently and easily, your body gets this deep rest. And that deep rest allows the body to heal itself naturally, physiologically. There's a hormone called cortisol. I'm sure you know it. Cortisol is a stress hormone that's secreted by the adrenal glands that sit on top of the kidneys. And when we're worried or anxious about something, the body secretes cortisol. Well, the problem is when the body secretes cortisol, it just makes us worry more and then more cortisol and worry more and more. And it becomes this vicious cycle and a person could even have a panic attack. When you get a good night's sleep, cortisol levels drop 8–10%. During 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, they drop 30–40%. So there's a physiological healing that takes place that allows your body to relax, opens up the mind, and now, LJ, when you want to deal with those issues, you're a bigger person, you're more courageous, you know, you're more confidence, and they're not so overwhelming. And you can deal with them. That's why there's so many therapists recommend a person do TM, and then, that's why I say, do one and then do the other. It's not an either or. Look at self-transcending as physiologically allowing your body to get rid of these deeply rooted stresses. And now I want to deal with my life. I don't want to live in ignorance. I want to be free, and I can't be free if I'm hiding. Bring it on.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's a lot to take in. It's really good.
I know my answers are a little long. I apologize.
No, but it's so good. Yeah, you know, I think this is actually a good segue of talking a little bit about the importance of having a teacher, because my practice is rooted in Zen and Zazen, seated Zen meditation, and I practice Shikantaza, which is just sitting, and Anapanasati, which is watching the breath come and go without trying to control it.
Yes, that's open monitoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but in Zen we have teachers. So
yes.
I had to take an interview with a Buddhist monk once. I was really intimidated and scared to go do it, but he was very gentle and kind, and I don't even remember what he said. It was like almost 20 years ago, but it was something like, "You're on the right track," or he was encouraging. But the essence of it stuck with me, and obviously there's a technique to Zen to be able to meditate in a way that allows you to be open and relaxed and still alert. So, so I appreciate the teacher-student approach, and I wanted to hear your take on it with regards to TM.
I always remember when I was used to go camping in the Sierras when I was like 10 or 12 or 13 years old, and I was this one camp, and then a 10-mile hike was to this Fordyce Lake, it was called, and it was ice cold, and it was crystal clear, and it was so beautiful. And there was this one guy, Bruce Wagner, who was the guy who led us there. I never could have gotten there without a guide. He knew the path because someone else had taken him on the path, and somebody else. And it wasn't it wasn't difficult so much with him because he knew. And so I feel that meditation has, at least until a few years ago, always been taught by a teacher, always been taught. I think a little bit of this is not all, but some of it is marketing. Some of it is, it's a for-profit venture. And we'll mass produce it. And here, this is enough. You get the essence of it. I think it just scratches the surface. I have nothing, people want to dabble with Headspace or Muse or Calm. Great. That's what they want to do. They just want to put their baby toe into the water. It's there for a reason. The universe is organized, so it's there for a reason. But it's just the surface. And I do feel, though, that it plays a role because a lot of people now come and wanting to learn self-transcending or open monitoring or focused attention because it wasn't enough. They tried it, but intuitively it didn't resonate deeply with their soul. It was fine, but it wasn't enough. But I'm a big advocate, and people say, well, you're not going to be able to scale this because you have to get, you do everything online. And I say, I don't want to dumb it down. Let's just train 1 million teachers. Let's not dumb the thing down. Let's be sure that people have the proper instruction. So I'm a big advocate of Bruce taking me on that path.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, for me, I know you're a teacher as well, and I am a teacher as well, and I long background of teaching dance.
Oh yeah, I have some questions for you.
Meditation.
Wait,
Sure.
wait. I got some questions for your audience. I get to ask you a question. How did you end up doing this? How did you end up? You're a bright, energetic, you're all those wonderful things. You could be doing anything. Why are you doing this?
Wow.
Where did you go? Yeah, just tell me.
So I was raised in a household, a very reformed Jewish household. I say very reformed because we were, and in the San Francisco Bay Area.
What temple did you go to?
Temple Beth Hillel I think it's in El Sobrante.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you familiar?
No, I know
Okay.
San Francisco, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I spent half of my early childhood I spent in San Francisco proper, and then my later childhood in the East Bay, just north of Berkeley, in an area called San Pablo. And I was always taken with the idea that there is something more out there, higher purpose. Maybe it was God. I questioned a lot, even at an early age. And not to get too granular in religion, but for me, it's sort of just, Judaism for me just always sort of was on the surface for me. It was always there and definitely part of my heritage and my somewhat community. But in the end, for me, it never really had a deeper, it didn't resonate with me more deeply than that. And it took running away from a guy in my mid-20s after hearing, I don't know if you're familiar, Ajahn Amaro, the Buddhist monk in the Bay Area. hearing him speak and then deciding that I would go find myself. And I ran away from this person who, you know, it wasn't anything dramatic. My actions were more dramatic than what happened, but I just felt like I needed to go find myself. And I packed my car and I drove all the way down the Pacific Coast Highway, and meditating along the way, stopping at different Zen centers and beaches, and when I came back, I realized that, and my father, this is not his saying, but he always said it to me: wherever you go, there you are. And so every stop, I just was reminded of that. Leah Joy, you can't run away from your problems. They're always going to be there because
your luggage always catches up.
They're here.
When you land, your luggage is always right there. It's at the airport with you.
It's true. And, you know, and that was really the beginning of my journey. I was in my mid-20s, so this was 20 years ago. And I used to sit at the Berkeley Zen Center, and I used to go on retreat at the Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. The person I took interview with was Jakusho Kwang Roshi at the Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, and I've had a daily morning practice ever since. But things that have evolved. Like I said, I have a few different tools in my toolbox. So Zen is one. I have gotten a little bit more into metta, loving kindness meditation. It's a very compassionate form of meditation, self-compassion and compassion for others.
Beautiful.
Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, and Joseph Goldstein, I think, are the ones that founded that. And then also, in very recent times, I have sort of made something up, and it's more of like a visioning a physical light going through each of my chakras, and feeling the light either coming in or going out of my body, and then at the top of my head going all around and then back into the world. So it's sort of like this cycle of golden light that is both self-compassion and compassion for others, sort of a visualization of manifestation of my own core values that I have introduced into compassion-based work, which is the foundation for my work. So yeah, so here we are. And it's every day, it's just such a fascinating journey. I think I said at the beginning of this call with you, like, I feel like I'm a beginner most of the time. And I think that it's supposed to be like that, but I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think, as I've been meditating now for over 50 years, that I grow in experience, a sort of a wisdom that's tied to common sense, and an innocence. I'm less jaded than I ever was before. I'm more appreciative of the moment, less judgmental than I ever was before. But the meditation for me has just become very familiar, like an the best friend, you know, like myself is my best friend, you know, like I go back to remembering me at 7 playing basketball in the backyard. And I think back and I thought, oh, he was such a sweet kid, you know, just dumb, sweet kid. And now I learned when I was 18. And so I just think there's a familiarity with the practice for me, a comfort with the practice, an ease with the practice. And the changes that going on is more confidence and just more innocent observer, but innocent, but not pulled, like I really feel anchored to my own truth.
Innocent, but not naive.
No, not naive at all.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of innocence can only be anchored in a deep knowingness of oneself, a confidence and a comfort in oneself. I don't feel challenged or threatened by any, you know, fine, this is who I am. I always think of it like I one time picked up a rock, and the rock was perfect in all of its sort of gnarls, and it was like on a beach, and it had, the water had hit it and there was pock marks, and it was so perfect. It wasn't like shiny glass. It was just in its perfection, which was all the marks and the things. So in my life, all the things I've done right, all the things I've tried to do done wrong, there's like a growing, this is who I am. And that's
Yeah.
great. It's great.
Oh, yeah,
You know
that's
what I
cool.
mean?
I do. I say that a lot. Like, we're all perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting because I think that especially a lot of folks who ask me about meditation, they're beginners, like truly beginners, and they're maybe considering using an app or something to start. They think that they need to, that there's something to fix, you know, and I think it's like it's really more just going, like you said, it's about going deeper rather than trying to fix the stuff on the surface. Like be here, and then everything else will fix itself.
Yeah, and I also think everywhere you look at nature, like nature's just hammering the lesson. You look at a tree, obviously the analogy of the ocean, but you look at a tree. Giant, first of all, it starts off as a giant redwood tree. We know it from Northern California. Started off as a little, I mean, it was like this big. It was like a seed this big, that 300-year-old redwood. And everything that tree is contained in that little seed. But, so you get, let's say you have an apple tree with a, it's a little apple tree. Now, what do? You water it. And you water the roots. You pour water on dirt. And then every day you do the same thing. You pour water on, this is what I think of meditation. Every day I pour water on dirt. Now it's got green leaves. Now it's got this amazingly fragrant petals. Now it's got this, where did this come from? This hard, sweet, fragrant apple. I mean, you'd never look at the apple and say, well, that came from a flower. You know, or that caterpillar is going to turn into a butterfly. Right. You never see that. And so for me, meditation is, I just do it. I don't think about it. I just do it every day. We were talking beforehand about the commitment to do it. I just do it. It's watering the root. And the benefits for me is in the effects, the value of meditation is not so much in the meditation itself, which for me is satisfying. It's this. It's the leaves and the flowers and the fruit. And that is what I like it for. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. I love leaves and fruit too. And they do pop up in the most unexpected ways.
Yeah, you know? Totally.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with attachment to expectation. It's just what happens. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, because if you look at that flower and you say, okay, I want the next flower, an apple's going to come from that. A nectarine is going to come from that. You can't know. You can't have any idea that this is going to produce that. Yeah. There's nothing linear about it. And so all you just do is it's the innocence, it's the being here now, it's attention to detail. It's that beautiful quote from the Bhagavad Gita, you have control over action alone, never over the results, never over the fruits. You can just do what you can do. Every moment of the day, you do the best you can.
Yes.
And
tie your commitment to output, not outcome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for reminding us all about that. It's so important. I think we're almost at time to take questions, but I wanted to ask you in terms of discovery, and this is actually a natural segue from what we were just talking about. Have you had an experience, or could you share an experience where you had a really surprising discovery in your meditation, in your nearly 50 years of meditating? It's something that has come up for you and you were like really surprised by it.
If you look up the word to transcend in the dictionary, it says to go beyond ordinary human limitations, break boundaries. And as human beings, we always want to break boundaries. We by nature, when you left your boyfriend, If you feel bound, if you feel restricted, if you feel constrained, it's opposed to life. Life wants to grow, wants to expand, has to. And so we're always looking to break boundaries. We're always looking to go beyond the ordinary human limitations, but we do it outside on the sort of like, okay, all right, I'm bored with what I'm doing, so I'm going to meet new people. Well, now I'm bored with what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a spin class. I'm going to do a theater class. I'm going to do this. Well, the extraordinary very quickly becomes the ordinary. And then we're constantly looking to break boundaries out here, which is just the nature of life. Inside, this is what I like about self-transcending. Effortlessly, the mind settles down and expands, and then we access that field within, which is truly unbounded, truly, not just words, infinite, truly, it's there. We've just stuck up here. And so you can read these wonderful quotes from people throughout the ages, whether they're religious leaders or they're artists like Michelangelo or scientists like Einstein or anybody, great Greeks, Romans, and they have that experience of that transcendence. So now I'm going to answer the question. I was about 23 years old or 22, something, 24 years old, and I was on a long meditation course. I was just meditating. It was fine. And then all of a sudden I had an experience that changed my life of just, wow, like, oh, there is an internal. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, it's not just like a kind of a nice place. When Isaiah says, he says, be still and know that I am God. It's not just sort of like, oh, okay, well, you're God. Okay, it's a big deal. So to answer the question, that experience of genuine transcendence that throughout the ages people have talked about, that, and it's come at periodically at different times, but the first time was like, holy moly, I'm on the right track here. I'm going for the ocean, you know. I'm here and I hear stories about how nice, I'm in the desert, I hear stories about how nice the ocean is. I'm going to continue the path to get to the ocean. And it's not a make-believe, and it's not, okay, the journey is what's important, there's no goal. It's true there's no goal because that unboundedness is just here now anyway, but the realization of it was quite big.
Yeah.
You have to ask these deep questions, LJ, and I can't get away with just answering short stuff. I apologize.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it so much. This is great. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. And I think we're going to take some questions. Are you good to take some questions? Let's do it. So let's pull this up over here. Hi, April. April says, love the science behind it. April's a musician, and she enjoyed the wave descriptions. Let's see if we've got a question from Jeff Levy. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us today. I've been practicing, he says, I've been practicing TM for about 2 years. Initially, I got a lot of benefit, but after stopping and then restarting, I've found I actually focus on the mantra as a word versus sound. How do I stop doing that?
I'm going to give you my email. It's actually for anybody who's on this, if you have a question for me. But Jeff, I'm going to give you my email, and then I'll arrange to have you have your meditation refreshed. Okay? So my email is bob@davidlynchfoundation.org. And that goes to me. It doesn't go to somebody else. It's my actual email, bob@davidlynchfoundation.org. And then I'll arrange a time we can connect by phone, and I'll do a little refresher of your meditation. It'll be much more satisfying after that little tune-up.
Thank you. That's great. He says, great, thanks. And I'm including my email in there as well. Jeff, I'm sorry I won't be able to refresh your meditation. That's something Bob will do for you, but you all have my email, and that will reach me directly as well. Let's see. Jeff is asking, how do we get the recording? Jeff, that email would be to me. If you could email me directly, please, we can talk that through for next steps after this is done today. And great. Let's see. Any other questions for Bob? Let's see.
We can, if there's not, we can talk about creativity.
Yeah, great. Oh, we've got one from Liz. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
For someone just starting, what recommendations do you have?
For someone just starting with meditation.
Right.
I'm a really big believer in informed decisions, knowledge as the basis of action. I think that the days are over of just, meditation is some sort of trivial thing. That's what I love, LJ, your commitment to this and your deep dive into these practices for so long. It's very impressive. And so I think I would go online. I go to tm.org. I would look up mindfulness, go online. I would, going back to that comment about research, personally, I think that there's no difference between the body and consciousness and spirituality, that it is a continuum, and that if you have a true spiritual awakening, it's going to show up in the way your cardiovascular system functions, your limbic system functions, your digestive. It's because it's one whole continuum. It's not cut off. Oh, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm stressed out of my mind.
Right.
Or it doesn't work that way. A person who's truly compassionate, well, we know from loving kindness research that wakes up the prefrontal cortex on the left side of the prefrontal cortex, that focusing and attention on loving kindness. So it's a continuum. So to answer your question shorter, do a deep dive on research, make an informed decision, and try things out. And if you try one thing and it doesn't work, they're not all the same. And so that's what I would suggest.
Thank you. Yeah, let's see, who else has a question here? Hi, Fiona. This is from Fiona Bloom. Have you ever taken meditation too far where it's been a scary experience? I've heard a few stories where they transcended so deeply that they faced some dangers.
That wouldn't be transcendental meditation. The word transcending, or if there's any effort or force or focus, something like that, and where it's a manipulation, that could be dangerous. But with TM, it's so innocent and natural. As I didn't say this, but this is used to the extreme for people who are very traumatized. So I head up the David Lynch Foundation, and we're working now to bring the meditation to veterans and their families who suffer from post-traumatic stress. And in the Bronx Veterans Administration Hospital, we're working at the suicide clinic there. So all the veterans who are severe risk for suicide, they all learn TM. And that's approved by the VA, that's approved by the psychiatrist, because it is so simple and gentle and natural. There is no forcing. But I would be concerned about something where there's a affectation or some straining to be a certain way. It's like wakeful. It's like falling. It's not sleep, but it's like TM is like falling awake. It's very natural.
I love that. Thanks, Bob. Lynn Lowe has a question. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
This is such a great question. How do I know that I'm truly doing my best?
What is that? Sorry. When you feel simple inside, when you don't feel complicated, when you don't feel confused, well, the first thing is you have to know yourself. So it's an interesting thing. So one time somebody asked Maharishi, he was speaking to a graduating class, and they said, what's the advice you should have? He said, first you have to meditate, because when you meditate, then you know yourself. You clear out the gunk, and then you hear your own inner voice. If you can't hear your own inner voice, you'll never figure it out, because you're going to follow what it says in the newspaper or the celebrities, or there's a million gurus and meditation people who will say anything. Ultimately, it has to be, you have to hear your own inner voice. So first, meditate, hear your own inner voice. That's number one. Number two, so know yourself, be true to yourself. We were talking about this earlier. Align yourself with that voice. Don't. It becomes painful in a relationship when you know you're not supposed to be in a relationship. It feels, you can't cover, you can't hide it, you can't suppress it. You just, and not just, I'm really annoyed with my boyfriend this week or something, but if it's like carries on for a long time, or a job. So that's, first is know yourself. Number two is be true to yourself. And then the last thing he said was, do what you know to be right and don't do what you know to be wrong. It's so simple. Know yourself, be true to yourself, and then you don't need to have a million commandments. You know, if you're aligned with if you can hear your inner voice, do what you know to be right, don't do what you know to be wrong. So to answer your question, it's all part of that. You're doing your best when you know what you want to be doing. You've done the work. You've opened up yourself to you can hear your inner voice. And then I said, it's simple. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of duplicitousness. There's not a lot of anything. It's like, I'm really working hard on this thing. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I've done my best. And at the end of the day, simpleness. And simple doesn't mean simplistic. It means not complicated. Like when you're with your best friend, it's so easy. But when you're with somebody you hardly know and you're always on edge, when you're with your best friend, it's simple. When you know you're doing your best, it's simple.
I love that. Thank you for the question, Lynn. Hi, Felice. Felice, it says, TM sounds really interesting to me, but I am very much a novice at meditation. Is it better to start with a different method? I struggle with settling my mind, trying to go to sleep, or if I wake up in the middle of the night.
Find out more about TM. Go to tm.org. Take a look at it. And I'm not pushing it, but it is, it's simplicity. I'll explain just briefly how it works. How do we get from here to here? And the key word here is effortless. So I'm going to give you two examples, and I'm mindful of the time. Two examples. They have nothing to do with the meditation, then I'll come back to it. So you're sitting in a room and you're doing some really boring number crunching work, just boring. In the other room, miraculously, some of the most exquisite music you have ever heard in your life come on. Where's your attention go? Whoa, turn that up. Or you have two books. And the first book is a travesty that it ever got published. Cannot read a word. The other book, phenomenal. Hours go by. We've had that. So what is that? Your attention drawn to that beautiful music, your attention absorbed in that book. Here's the key thing. The mind, on one level, is a monkey that needs to be stopped. But at a deeper level, given the opportunity, the nature of the mind is to seek happiness, seek connection, seek love, seek wisdom, seek beauty, seek pleasure, seek delicious. Just given the opportunity, foul smell, nice smell. Ugly view, beautiful view. Terrible music, good music. So the mind seeks that and it goes out to the senses to try and find it. Oh, this relationship is going to make me happy. He's finally going to be the one. Or this new job, or this concert, or this dinner, or this vacation spot. Yeah, little bits or this, but never. You could be in a great relationship and say, I'm not happy at work. You can be happy at work, and I got. Now, throughout the ages, people have said there's a transcendent level within you, unbounded level within you, and the mind is already drawn to something more satisfying. In self-transcending, we learn how to give the attention of the mind in inward direction. And it's like teaching a child how to dive. You say, honey, take the correct angle, gravity takes over. So my mind wants happiness, inside, really nice place, close the eyes, and I learn in TM you're given a mantra, which is a word or a sound, 1, 2, 3 syllables, no meaning, And then the teacher, your teacher, gives you a mantra from this ancient tradition and then teaches you how to use it properly. And I'm not exaggerating to say within a few minutes or an hour, I can teach a 10-year-old child with ADD who can't close their eyes for a half a minute without going nuts, and they meditate 10 minutes. It's everyone's birthright. So the answer to the question is, you can start wherever you are.
Yeah, so powerful. That is a great takeaway for today's call. This is accessible to everyone. Yeah, thank you. Great. I think we have time for one more question here. Let's see. Okay, April says, also a question about the alpha waves. I find sometimes it's hard to shut off my fight or flight. It is so hard to get into that relaxed state and quiet the monkey mind. And sometimes when I do, I end up going lucid or falling asleep. Is this a bad thing? Maybe I just need to sleep more, LOL. But that said, can I use TM to be more rested and alert? And how long a day would be beneficial to create new habits and brain waves? Cool question.
So the thing is it's very difficult to create. Alpha 1 brainwave is that restful alertness, and it exists to here at quieter levels of the mind, like quieter levels of the ocean. Like you're at a park and you're at a playground and you see, well, that kid's a hothead. He's boiling over with rage. And you see, well, that kid is cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
So here the mind is agitated and heated, and that's beta brain waves. And here the mind is cool and settled, and that's alpha 1. So we don't have to strain for that. We just give access to it, as I said, with a mantra and a teacher to show you how to dive within. Fight or flight is absence of alpha 1. If you're so that's up here, and that's a hyper-aroused amygdala, and we could talk about that another time. But I would just say that if you're sleeping a lot, it is a sign that your body's saying, I need more sleep. So sleep is sacred. I don't like how in our society we sort of diminish sleep. Sleep is sacred. We should give the body what it wants.
Yes. Here, here. I feel like, especially in this pandemic, I don't think people realize the emotional cost to all of this craziness, and it's draining, and we need to sleep more. I think we just need more sleep.
We should be kind to ourselves. We should be kind to ourselves.
Absolutely. 100%. Bob, someone has asked for your email address again, so I'm just reposting that to everyone here in the chat. There is Bob's email. That's bob@davidlynchfoundation.com.
.org.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
Catch.
Oh, that would be a mistake. Yeah. So let's put that back in. David Lynch Foundation.
And if you go to davidlynchfoundation.org, just as a site, you'll see all the stuff that I'm talking about too. It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay. .org, everyone. bob@davidlynchfoundation.org. Excuse my mistake. We are just about at time, but we have one very quick question from my father, who's on the call. Hi, Dad. Thanks for joining us today. This is great. Bob, he's got a question here. How does one know if the inner voice is really the inner voice? Is that that it is the inner voice, or is it something infiltrating from the surface?
And yeah, it's a wonderful, by the way, your daughter, Leah Joy, is a blessing to the world. You did really great, Dad. You did really great. She's wonderful. This is one of the most extraordinary interviews I've ever done in my life. So it's really great. The answer to that question is you have to know yourself. And so you have to, it's a wonderful question. How do I know I'm just not I'm irritated, or that person's just driving me nuts, or I'm stressed, or I'm tired, I'm feeling weak. So you have to know the self. You have to know yourself, then you have to be true to yourself. So you have to do the work, and the work is meditation, and the work is different types of meditation. And I have personally taught and learned many different mindfulness approaches. And what I find is I sit and I do my TM, and it clears the mind, and it makes me fresh. And then I'm more mindful naturally, and I'm more present, and I can really hear my own inner voice and not just static from outside. So we have to do that effortless work in order to, it's like if you have a pond that's all riled up, you can't see through it. But when all the silt is settled and cleared out, then you can see the beautiful stones at the bottom. So that's what I would say. But well done with Leah Joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me and with us, Bob. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much. Deep gratitude to all of you for spending time with us today. This has been recorded, and for those who weren't able to attend, they'll be able to watch it. And I just want to say, please, for all of you watching, please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And we'll see you next time on the next Mindfulness in Music. Thank you again, and be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.